Left 4 Dead is a team-based survival horror shooter taking place on the East Coast of the United States in 2009. Now, most of that shit that you just saw on the side screen isn't really that important for this video. What is important is that very first point, team-based. Yeah, this is probably the only video game in the history of video games on the entire planet that will actually punish you for doing whatever you want to do. But most fans would know that a longtime Left 4 Dead player's favorite pastime is doing side quests. Whether it be speedrunning or expert maxing, this video will go over the guide to the solo player. Playing this game by yourself, the common infected are your #1 biggest enemy. Sure, the special infected are pretty threatening with their unique abilities, but if you're skilled enough, you can handle the special infected alone no problem. However, it's when the special infected are combined with the common infected that things get a bit sticky, and that's why it's very important to clear the room or area of any and all common infected you could possibly see. I mean, just look at this slug. Yeah, that's a slug. My point is, even though you have a massive shotgun, you can get overwhelmed very quickly. And by far the easiest and most efficient way of dealing with the horde is by finding any kind of small space that has a doorway, whether it be a closet or a bathroom, or even a stairwell like in the background footage. You're basically funneling all of these commons into this little tiny space, so then basically you could destroy the entire horde in about 5 seconds. Now that being said, one of the worst things you could possibly hear in a horde out in the middle of the open is this. I got that off of a dirty hard drive given to me by somebody on the dark web. Supposedly the guy that recorded that clip immediately quit Left 4 Dead altogether, and he was later diagnosed with PTSD. Hey, have you ever been this guy? Oh god, there's so many zombies out here. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna get so overwhelmed. There's a solution. Just jump on top of something and go ballistic. And if anybody ever tries to tell you that cornering yourself is a bad idea, they don't know what they're talking about. I will promise you that. Yeah, question. Have you ever just grabbed an Uzi and jumped inside of a tiny box? Because no matter how smart and no matter how good your techniques are, sometimes you're not going to be able to get out of certain situations. And that's why having a Molotov with you is your best choice, because it could very well save your life. Because unlike the pipe bomb, the Molotov has multiple uses. Not only is it a weapon of mass destruction, but on top of that, it can help you get out of a very sticky situation. I mean, just throw the Molotov at your feet, and not only is it an instant death for everything within the radius, but on top of that, if you throw that Molotov in the exact direction that you're moving towards, every single zombie that follows you will burn in that fire and die instantly. But what is the point of all of this if you have no idea how to fight the special infected? Well, that's why we have the daily specials. The first special infected you should know your way around is the Smoker, a nicotine-intoxicated green flu hardscoper. Much of the time, the Smoker will be your #1 enemy amongst the specials, mainly because of its range. Because you could really use any gun that you'd want, but the shotgun has the highest spread, and you don't have to be very accurate with it. However, the #1 pitfall with the shotgun is, of course, the Smoker. Barely within range on a good day, and just out of reach on most. However, there's a few good strategies up my sleeve that you can use to combat this. If you're at a certain distance where you know you're not going to be able to hit a Smoker, get behind something. Literally anything. But just remember, unlike most of the special infected, the Smokers are very fast acting, so you might only have a couple of seconds to react. This is kind of like a long distance version of peekaboo, because instead of trying to move closer to the Smoker, it's a lot easier and more efficient to just peek in and out of your hiding spot. And eventually the Smoker's going to get close enough to where you can just deke him right in the head. Now once again, Smokers are very fast, so you might not even realize that there's a Smoker in your presence until you're actually being dragged by it. And that's why this next method requires a shit ton of reflex. It's basically where you shoot the Smoker while you're getting dragged, and you only have like maybe a split second to react. So if you're not quick enough in turning your head in a crazy CSGO level flick, then you might not land that shot. The Hunter is the lion of the green flu. It utilizes the element of surprise, and it jumps at you when you least expect it. However, a well-timed shove can disappoint all of that, because much like the Charger, their path is pretty straightforward. literally, but in the off chance that you're stuck in the middle of a situation, your odds begin to climb dangerously high. So if you're caught in the middle of a large horde and you hear the magical sound, the best thing that you can do in that situation, and you have no idea where the hunter is to basically spam your right click and just really hope that one of those random shoves is the right one. The tank is the strongest special infected in Left 4 Dead. Everybody knows this. However, what a lot of people don't realize is that there's a lot of different ways that you can kill a tank, especially by yourself. As somebody who's killed multiple tanks on multiple occasions by myself, I think I'm the qualified one in the room to say that it's pretty easy killing a tank if you know what you're doing. Because believe it or not, the tank has a lot of flaws that you can take advantage of, but it doesn't always work out, so there's gonna be times of disappointment. One of the big misconceptions about fighting tanks is that going into small, tightly closed spaces is a bad idea. But the reality is two things, right? The first thing is if you don't know how to navigate in a small space when there's a ginormous 12-foot tall, beefy-ass zombie chasing after you, then yeah, it's going to be a problem. And then the second thing is if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, then yeah, it's going to be a problem. Because the other reality is, if you're running through a tiny little liquor store, the tank is not going to have the easiest time getting to you, mainly because of all the things he has to jump over and the small spaces he has to squeeze through. So the idea of getting the tank out into the open is only really working in multiplayer, mainly because when you're in single player, the tank does run faster than you, and if you're out in the middle of an open field with a simple shotgun, then it's not nearly going to be enough to kill him. The other method, of course, is blowing him to smithereens. Making any use of gas tanks and propane tanks is going to help you end this guy's life pretty fast. And if you're skilled enough, you could time a pipe bomb just right so you can blow this dude up. Now, all of that stuff I just talked about can be disregarded if you're using the wrong weapons. And especially for the case of the solo player, you don't want to be running around with an Uzi or an AK or anything with some crazy spray pattern. As a solo player, the best thing that you can use is a shotgun. In Left 4 Dead, the most important thing to you is your weapon. And sometimes, depending on your playstyle, your weapon may change. But if you're the solo player, you're always going to go with a shotgun. Because although a gun like the AK being the most powerful weapon in the assault category, it has probably the most garbage spread pattern. Because even guns like the M16 and Uzi or the Scar will never be efficient enough to take down a horde in a solo setting. Because as I've said before, the shotguns have the tightest spread, meaning you can take out at least 10 zombies in one good shot. Now, I had mentioned before that using an Uzi on a crowd of zombies is very effective, which it is. However, the main difference is it really depends on the situation with an Uzi. However, with a shotgun, not only is it the only weapon in the entire roster that you could basically shoot while reloading, but it's also effective in the same way across several different situations. Because imagine this, right? You're in the middle of a wide open space with an Uzi, and you're running from a bunch of commons and specials. At a certain distance, that Uzi is not going to hit everything. But with a shotgun, it's always going to be a shotgun, no matter what. Nothing changes about the shotgun. And not only that, but it is also most effective against tanks. And having a fully automatic shotgun and utilizing your environment to your advantage is the single best way to navigate Left 4 Dead solo. And this doesn't only work for the tank, this works for all special infected. As just like we discussed with the smoker, if you're hiding behind objects, you're forcing the special infected to come towards you. And if you still haven't understood yet, you're basically playing a long-scale version of Home Alone, and you're using the static environment around you that is unchanging to lure the special infected into a trap. And this is probably the most important detail in the entire video, mainly because in all of Left 4 Dead, you're pretty much running from everything. But now, in many ways more than one, you're actually becoming more of a special infected yourself. You're using the game's medicine against itself. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to visit xshark.neocities.org for more videos and topics such as this. For any video suggestions, ideas, or topics, be sure to open up the C-Box widget to the right. For any other inquiries, be sure to go through the contact page on the website.